The conservative numbers. That's what I should probably tell you about, the conservative numbers. These are the little numbers. When people do statistics, there's different things they can do to change those statistics. Like statistically, the homeless are the second most killed by the police. 502 people on the lowest number that I was able to find of people killed by the police in 2019. 502 people. The lowest number for the people who are disabled. This is number one on the list, the disabled, at over 50%. Now, if you break that down into physically disabled and mentally disabled, homeless people are actually number one. But it depends on whether or not you just consider the disabled one group or whether you want to separate that group. Now that group is completely different numbers. Two separate groups that now have to vie for that attention. And the homeless as well. Most of the homeless are actually part of that statistic. Because how better to get away with it than to call someone mentally ill? They're homeless. What's the big statistics with homeless people? That they're mentally ill. Why are they big statistics? Because that was a bias that people, especially police officers, played on. I'm going to tell you what it's like for a homeless woman. And no, I'm not a homeless woman. But I've been out there. I've seen it with my own two eyes. The number one reason for women to become homeless is fleeing domestic abuse. There were a lot of women out there who were used to be the girlfriends or wives of police officers. Homeless on the streets. Why are you homeless in Boulder? Well, because I'm from Grand Junction. I can't be homeless there. Those cops will fucking kill me. Whew. The American public is more afraid of the police than they are of the mafia for good reason. Meanwhile, this is the victim pool. These are the people that America goes to when they want someone to victimize. Homeless women are raped more in 1 month than all other rapes against adults in America combined for an entire year. How is that even possible? Well, it's because police officers don't take reports from homeless people. You are more likely to be hurt if you're a female, but not that much more likely. They'll give you numbers to programs. They'll give you numbers to programs. If you're a poor person in a house, they might pick up your case. They're a lot more likely to pick up your case than if you're a homeless person on the streets. And for a lot of these women that are homeless being raped, on average, 3 times a month, some of these women are gang raped. Some of these women are raped by their significant other who is supposed to be their safety, their watchdog. You need one when you're homeless, especially as a woman. See, guys that are homeless, they get victimized way more than women, but they don't have to deal with sexual assault nearly as much. A lot of these women, they've gone home with college kids, especially if they're young and pretty. I mean, those college kids just eat that up. Oh yeah, I'll take you home. I'll take you home. You don't want to freeze to death. So you go home with this dude and he rapes you. He might even steal your things. And when you try to tell the cops, they're not going to listen to you. Your homeless needs a fucking college kid. Boulder Police Department has literally covered for hundreds of rapes by college students since they put in that system to help rape victims, to not be raped. People in Boulder, Colorado want to believe the police, but the male student body of CU campus knows that the police will cover up their rapes, especially if they play football. especially if they play sports. Because there were some very high profile cases back in the 90s. Some very high profile cases where women were raped. And I've been exposing many of the victims that have happened since, but most of them get, well, they get called terrible names by the police. And also, everybody in America, everyone, whether you're black, white, red, orange, yellow, blue, indigo, or fucking violet, you know that you can victimize the homeless and get away with it. A lot of these women who are homeless, they get a boyfriend who he shows that he's abusive. When, he hits her and she breaks up with him, then she's got 10,000 guys that are all wanting her attention, saying, oh man, it's fucked up that guy did that, and I'll beat his ass next time I see him. And then she gets so overwhelmed with all of these dudes who are all up in her grill, wanting her attention. Like, oh yeah, I'll do this, I'll do that. She just got out of a fucked up relationship. She only had that relationship so that she could fend off all the dogs. So that people wouldn't come up and continually try to be friends with her just so that they could victimize her. So now that she's back on the market, she's got to deal with this. And this does actually happen to homeless men as well, just so you know. This isn't just a women only specific here. As far as this part of it goes, yeah, there are a lot of men that they're like, you know what? Yeah, she's a drunk or an alcoholic or a meth addict, but she only fucking freaks out 2 or 3 times a month. Whereas without her here, it's just me. The cops fuck with me more, the homeless fuck with me more, people steal my shit more. So you partner up, mutual safety. Your boyfriend or girlfriend can watch your stuff while you go and try to get a job, or you go to the appointments that you have to go to because you're in trouble with the law because you're homeless. And we're supposed to ignore that. We're supposed to ignore the fact that the homeless have to deal with that and nobody gives a fuck. They deserve it. You tell us we chose this. Who the fuck chooses that? Who chooses to be hunted by the police for being broke? Who chooses to be victimized for being broke? Who chooses to be raped because they're broke? Because they don't want to freeze to death? God, I hope this college kid here doesn't try to rape me, but I don't want to freeze to death. My feet hurt. It feels like I'm walking on broken glass. I should probably go home and try to warm up. Even though it's not my home, at least it's a roof over my head for the night. This blizzard fucking sucks. The homeless shelter is full. Then he spends the whole night trying to get you to drink some alcohol, drink some alcohol, drink some alcohol. His friends come to the door and he sticks his head out and whispers to him for a couple of minutes and then closes the door. Obviously, he had plans, and now he wants to be alone with you. There's a reason he wants to be alone with you. For me, I don't want to be alone with anybody. I want to be in public if I'm going to meet anybody. When that situation was going on with Natalie, I didn't want to go fucking rent a hotel room, fucking go in there with just her. I wanted to meet her in public. Matter of fact, I wanted to meet her at the police station. I needed a mediator, and I had been trying to get that to happen. But then again, I was homeless and she wasn't. I mean, she had so many first world things that I've never had in my life. So many first world experiences that I've never in a million years have I ever. Although I haven't been alive for a million years, have I? People don't throw themselves at me the way they do Josh Martindale, or throw themselves at me the way that they do Natalie Bollinger or Alicia Bollinger. They don't try to get me messed up on drugs and have sex with me. I'm not attractive. Matter of fact, when that shit happens and they don't want to turn in their predator, he looks the part. I'm just going to take it out on him. It's fine, right? He's ugly. Nobody will care. He's homeless. He doesn't have any money. He can't fucking defend himself. He probably deserves it. Homeless women got to deal with the same shit. So here's how you end up being a homeless woman in most occasions. You know, there's always you were in the system because you didn't have parents that gave a shit and you aged out. But that's not in most of those cases. In most of those cases, they got a husband or boyfriend who beats them up, beats on their children, or rapes their children. And that person owns the house and gets to kick them out. Sometimes, because of the circumstances, they get to take a woman's children because she fought for her children. She ends up homeless. And then they try to use the fact that she tried to turn in her predator to say that she's an unfit mom. And then the victimization that she had to deal with from the police as a homeless person, they use that against her too. When you're homeless, that's what they try to do. They just peg on you one thing after another after another. And everything that they peg on you that they know is bullshit. But it makes it easier to victimize you next time. It makes it easier to say, well, look at what happened in the past. Now, what are most of those situations that happened in the past where these homeless were victimized by the police in a situation that bad? They were trying to turn in police officers, including police officers who committed rape in Boulder County. The largest hub in the United States for human trafficking is Denver, Colorado. That's amazing, isn't it? Because if you look at the statistics for Texas, Colorado should be bigger, right? See, here's one of the things that happens with human trafficking. You got a little Native American girl that you just stole, right? You just stole her from up near Hardin, Montana. And Boulder police, you know, they're a long ways away. They don't give a fuck. This is a different jurisdiction. So they transport that girl to Denver, Colorado. And she might be exported to Boulder to work in a trap house there. Or maybe to Cheyenne, Wyoming, but probably not because it's too close. Now then, meanwhile, you got homeless woman, right? She's small, she's tiny, you picked her up easy. If she doesn't do what you say, you put a bullet in her and you drop her off on the side of the fucking road, big fucking deal. Or you dump her off in a dumpster, start naked, spread eagle for the whole world to see. Does that hit the fucking papers? Not usually. Why not? It's a body in a fucking dumpster. Or off in the woods. A lot of times when they find bodies like that, you know what they do? You hear one mention of it and that's it. After that, it's snuffed out. This is a homeless person, all right? We can't be spending our time worrying about that bullshit. These people aren't fucking people. They're all lazy. They're all drug addicts. That's the opinion. And the news, when it comes to individual stories of the homeless, they don't care. Sometimes they put up a pity piece with some of the statistics of what we homeless people. And no, I'm not homeless right now. Then again, this is government housing. So my rights, my personal rights as a renter, well, they don't matter when it comes to the police. My landowners here can allow the police into my place at any point in time to do whatever the fuck they want. But I am a lot better off. I don't have to go home with some CU college student with the possibility of getting raped and having the police cover it up. But also as a male, I'm also far less likely to have that happen. See, rapes as children, they rapidly start dropping off the closer you approach to 18 because you're starting to get too big and you can fight back. Oh yeah. People are definitely afraid of that. Plus, a grown man might beat you to death. Safety in numbers is just as important for men, especially on the streets. So this woman the other ones who the police actually do something about their predators. You get yourself a husband and you think that things are going to be great. I mean, you're getting married, you're having a wonderful life now, you're buying a house together. And you know it's going to be tough, but the two of you can make it because you love each other. Then you find out he's raping your 9-year-old daughter, or he beats the shit out of you. And you call the cops. And the cops remove him from the house, but you can't afford it. You can't afford this. You know, this was your knight in shining armor after your hell growing up. And he turned out to be just another predator. But now you got a bigger problem. This is the one person you thought you could count on. You can't count on your parents. A lot of people that I know can. They can count on their parents. But not always. And that's when they end up homeless. Their kids get taken away because you're homeless. You're an unfit parent because you can no longer afford to pay for that place. And you're fucking trying. But you end up on the streets. And that officer that you were just 3 months ago, you were typing about how you were glad for this officer who came to your house and rescued you from this predator and rescued your kids from this predator. But now you're out on the streets. You weren't able to make your rent. You weren't able to pay the mortgage. You are fucking homeless. You don't have your kids. And now you're stuck outside. You don't know what to do. You don't know where to go. You're afraid of the fucking homeless still. You haven't talked to them or interacted with them, so you don't realize they're humans yet. Holy shit, how difficult is that to figure out? Then when you realize that you're one of them, it's usually your first interaction with the cops. Or you're in trouble for using a fucking blanket. Or for trespassing on city property. Zade Atkinson, a lot of people were pissed off because that officer was harassing him and he was on the sidewalk. Well, he was on the sidewalk and he was in the bushes. But police do that. Trespassing on public property to the homeless in Boulder, Colorado, that is one of our biggest charges. See, the Boulder population and the city council differ in opinion. And the city council, when they do pretend that they're going to do what the constituents of Boulder County wants, they do something completely different. Like a lot of people said, hey, it's fucked up that you're giving these homeless people tickets and jail time and fucking forcing them to do slave labor, community service, because they got busted one night with a fucking blanket and you are making them serve 20 hours of community service and pay $125 in fines. And the city council said, okay, we'll do something about that. We're sorry. We understand. Did they do something about the camping law, the urban camping law that we use to not freeze to death? No, they didn't. Instead, they introduced it's illegal to be on city property after 10:30 at night, or after 11 at night, 10:30 at night in some places. It's illegal for you to exist now. If you're a homeless person, it is now illegal for you to exist. It is illegal for you to even stop. Now, of course, as we've been talking about, they treat college kids completely different. When those Boulder police officers who did that fucked up shit to me were making those jokes and thought it was hilarious. When they killed Demetrius Shankling, why did people care? Because he's a fucking college kid. He's a college kid. Just like Zade Atkinson, a college kid. If Zade Atkinson had been homeless, nobody would have given a fuck about him. That's why the police victimized the homeless, because nobody gives a fuck about them. That's why they thought they would get away with victimizing Zade Atkinson. He's homeless. Nobody gives a fuck about him. He's fucking homeless. Oh shit, he's not homeless. But at that point in time, their attitudes changed and the way they dealt with the situation changed. I've seen the videos, I've watched them. We live in a rape society. We live in a capitalist society. And with the German model from World War II, as well as the American model from 1868, just after the Civil War. Yeah, that's the model that Adolf Hitler picked when he made the concentration camps and the forced labor camps. Him and Fritz Sauckel, and a man named Heinrich Himmler. These were all American ideas. And where did we get these American ideas from? We got them from Europe. This all comes from the Roman days. And everybody wants to emulate ancient Rome, don't they? Look at all of our beautiful, beautiful arches. We say that it's Greek. You know what? The Romans, their republic is based on Greek republics. Greece wasn't just democracy. That's Athenian Greece. And that wasn't even true democracy. The only true democracy to exist was piracy in the Caribbean in the 1720s. Matter of fact, piracy in the Caribbean in the 1720s. These are the survivors of Queen Anne's War. These are the men who fought for the British and French and Spanish monarchies. Straight up murdered each other at sea. But after the war was over, these guys weren't even paid. So you know what they did? They worked together. It was not uncommon to have French, Spanish, English, Irish, Scottish, American colonial, all surviving and fighting and working on the same ship, fighting against the royals, fighting against the establishment. Now, what's the point of this? Is that these folks found a way to make money off of victimizing people. And yes, it was very first intended specifically to victimize Black people. These laws were set up in 1866, 67, 68, and ratified. And it started with the 13th Amendment. The 13th Amendment allowed them that loophole they could use after the Civil War to victimize 4 million former slaves. Now they're slaves again. They're going to chain gangs. They're serving community service for being homeless because they were dropped off with nothing, just like those in the system. 18 years old, you get dropped off with nothing, not even an ID. You don't even know how to drive a fucking car. God bless America, right? Those laws, though, those weren't just pointed at Blacks. They had to carefully word them so that they couldn't appear as if they were being racist. So a lot of other people picked up on that and went, holy shit, we can victimize any homeless person now. We can make even more money, not just off of the Blacks, but look at the Irish. Look at their homeless rate. Oh, yeah. I mean, this is the fucking late 1800s. There were there's also a lot of Chinese people in the United States who were immigrants at that time. Boom! More free money. Police departments and our courts. This stuff isn't just a Black problem. It's an American problem. The excuses that we make, that's an American problem too. Now, there's a lot of foreign women that I've known, like Kinga Nichols, for example. She has an actual legitimate fear. The reason that she didn't come forward is because of actual legitimate fears. She's from Hungary, though. They used to be part of the communist bloc. She was in the Boy Scouts over there. Kinga is a fucking badass. And she shouldn't be afraid to do the right thing just because of where she was born. She's still a fucking human being. But then again, so am I. And if she cared about me, she would have spoken up. And she did care about me. She helped me out financially. But her words were the things that would have set me free. I told the truth for a reason. When I said, hey, come forward about this, most of these folks said, why? Why do I need to come forward about that? But why does it make any difference? Well, I'm trying to tell you why it makes a difference, why that's the only thing that works. And I'm trying to tell you from experience, but you're busy wanting to argue mid-sentence. There are more services for homeless women than there are for co-ed services. There's over 4,000 homeless people in Boulder County and less than 122 beds to house them all. Listening to some of these people in Boulder, Colorado who are still there, they're telling me about a lot of the other programs that were helping out the homeless. Boho closed down. Leap closed down. Or was it Leap Forward? Homeward Bound, I think somebody was telling me that was closed too. There's no money. It's all going to the prison system. It's all going to the jails. The money for battered women, gone. It's all going to the jails. It's all going to the cops. It's all going to the courts. It's not just a black problem. What the courts are doing and the police are doing, they're doing to the broke, to the impoverished. Human trafficking. I mean, Desiree was in a fucking trap house in Cheyenne, Wyoming, for Christ's sake. They take some of the children they've stolen from Mexico, or from California, or from Louisiana, from Florida. They bring them up to Denver. From Denver, that's where they make the exchanges. And you know what? We've already got many witnesses who have come forward to tell you who these officers are who are actually taking part in this in Colorado. There's judges involved in this in the state of Colorado. In many cases, they try to do it legally through loophole laws and earmarks, especially blonde-haired, blue-eyed girls under the age of 6. The younger, the better. They all prey on the lack of oversight. We're supposed to just trust these people because of their positions. They know that their positions allow them to do things that they will get away with because of their positions. A mental health worker knows that they can rape you and say, oh, well, he's mentally ill, or she's mentally ill. Predators don't just rape girls, they also rape boys. When you take out the number of rape boys and pretend that they don't exist, and you say it's just a female problem, no, it's a rape problem. It's a society ignoring a problem. And many of these victims think that because they're in a larger pool of victims, that it's okay for them to shit on other victims because they're not part of that group. You add the 27 million males in America who were raped before they became adults. You've got almost 100 million people in the United States. That's nearly 1/3 of our population was sexually abused before the age of 18. And still 0.2% of the population accounts for over a year of abuse against all other rape victims combined, specifically who are adults, I must add. These are adult statistics because children are still number one on the list. Children are still the most victimized. How fucked up is that? Why is that? mostly because your dad can rape you over and 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 over. And then you're gonna take it out on a homeless person who didn't do nothing because he's ugly, and you've been hearing the homeless people do this. You can't go after your dad, mom won't let you. You can't go after your dad, you live under his roof. You can't go after dad because you'll end up homeless. Or you tried to turn him in, nobody listened, and then you cut your wrist to try to get somebody to listen. And instead, they tagged you with mentally ill, and now he gets to rape you every day, knowing that no matter what, for the rest of the time that you are there, he can do whatever he wants to you because you are mentally ill. Because you did something desperate to try to get someone to listen. And the people who you're supposed to go to victimized you for it. The police, instead of helping you, force you to go to a place where they drug you, strap you down to a bed. You might even have a staff member or two there who feels quite liberal about touching you inappropriately. Therapy room, there's no cameras in there. There's no audio recording devices, there's nothing. In the rest of the facility, there's no audio devices because they can put their own narrative to any situation that way. Whereas audio would show why that person is aggressive and control. You just fucking pumped them full of Ritalin and they're not ADHD. They're having a fucking reaction to methamphetamines, basically. Something that you did to them. Drugs that you put into them. And then you escalate the situation. That's not acceptable, but without the audio, you can't tell. But in the therapy room, yeah, they can do whatever they want. You guys, Boulder Police doesn't listen to the Boulder people, the Boulder citizens. They listen to the Boulder City Council. They want that money from the college. They want that money from the rich college kids and their parents coming to Boulder to see their kids and spending money. Maybe spending money at the college, maybe spending money on the college, spending money at all of the local businesses. But if Boulder's got a reputation for having people at the college who are raping people, well, that's no good for business. That's no good for the city council. And that, therefore, is no good for the police. So, number one, they need to find people to lock up for these crimes. They got to find somebody else that they can lock up and say, we're doing a good job. Look at how good a job we're doing. Look at all these criminals that we locked up. Then when one of them girls was raped, police are covering up those crimes. There's a guy on here, conversation with him, his name is Jayhawk. He knows some of the judges who are involved in this. And I know, yes, that by saying this, there's a possibility that he may end up dead. There are federal agents involved in the human trafficking in Colorado. Denver is the hub for human trafficking. You get that Native American girl from Hardin, Montana, you take her down to Denver, you fucking trade her to somebody else. Boom, she's off to Florida or Texas or Mexico or Canada even. Yes, it extends that far north. I-90 is huge for this. Where does I-90 go? Look up I-90. That's your only fucking job. Just look up I-90. I want you to look at a map of I-90. If they're going north, they got to go through Cheyenne or back roads. Mostly I-90. More traffic is less conspicuous. If you're a human trafficker, you definitely don't want to be conspicuous. conspicuous to you? Police and judges, and Jayhawk knows some of those police and judges. Some of those federal agents he can point out. He can point out in a lineup. A lot of drug dealers, they do something called putting on an event or a venue. What this is you put on a rave, an illegal rave, illegal party. You have people who go around and do your advertising for you. Most of them are drug dealers. Mostly it's ecstasy. And when you go there for the party, that party is specifically because they want to unload a shit ton of ecstasy. Now, who is involved in doing that? If you guys go back and listen to the conversations between me and Tabitha Michelle Cook, yeah, she's seen those bags of ecstasy wrapped up in Christmas presents. Ken and Leah were also involved in that, are still involved in that. And a lot of that ecstasy, a lot of those raves are good places to pick them girls up. A lot of times, college kids see a pretty homeless girl. They'll say, hey, you want to go to a party with me? Meanwhile, it's a venue that's set up by people that I know. These are venues that people that I know, personally know, like Ken and Leah, Jayhawk, Tigger. These people all have real names. First and last ones. Tigger, yes, I know his first and last name. Jayhawk, I believe, well, his first name is Jay. I don't know what his last name is. Leah, her last name is Plunkett. Ken, his last name is Wilson. Tigger used to post flags for these people. What's a flag? A flag is a poster. Usually it's brightly colored like a construction flag. It's because you want people to look at it. You want people to pay attention to it. You want people to be drawn to it. It's a flag, you know. People go to these parties, and a lot of these college kids, they get these girls to go with them. You slip them a few ecstasy into their drink. After that, who cares where they go, right? So they end up raped, end up dropped off in the middle of nowhere. They end up just straight up disappeared. There are probably over 1 million women in the United States who are homeless, whose bodies have never been found. Nobody ever bothered to go out and search for their carcass. Their corpse is still out there, getting chewed on by maggots because nobody gave a fuck because they're homeless. Some of them raped off in the woods, murdered off in the woods because they wanted to go off into the woods so they could get away from all of that evil in the world. And they go off in the woods. Some dude finds them, tears their clothes off, rapes them, and just leaves them there, naked, strangled to death. We've got hundreds of these stories that we've been told about these bodies that are found. Now then again, when it comes to the homeless women, that's where true crime actually does get fascinated. When you've got serial killers that are hunting and killing girls, specifically homeless women or specifically prostitutes. Then people are interested. This is a serial killer. You know, they had a serial killer in the 90s in Boulder and Denver who was just going around killing homeless people. Did he ever get caught? No, the news just stopped reporting about him. He's still killing homeless people in Boulder and Denver today. Everyone knows this. Everyone in Denver knows this. Everybody in Boulder knows this. Nobody cares. Jayhawk talks about some of the bodies that were dumped in dumpsters in the video with him. He talks about some of the agents, some of the officers specifically by name. Why do I believe him? Well, pretty much the whole time he was admitting to crimes that he committed. And he didn't know that I was recording it. He was being honest with me because I'm Sean. He knows I'm trying to take these people down. But he could possibly go to prison or be murdered for the things that he said that I recorded and posted in public on this YouTube channel. That's the very same thing that Mandy Hughes is afraid of. Same thing that Miss Peaches is afraid of. See, that's the thing. A lot of these people didn't realize that these are real, actual predators. This is a real fucked up situation. And there are literally hundreds of officers who will go to jail if they look at my situation. Mine. My situation has a lot to do with the death of Elijah McClain, who was killed by methods that I spoke out about that were used against me. It was attempted manslaughter. Why? Because in that very same facility, they killed 2 more people doing that. Tibor Hatay was killed in Clearview. And I was in 11 different places where they tried to use that technique because I tried to turn in cops everywhere that I went. I was trying to get someone to listen, but they used the mentally ill term. Mentally ill treatment. Because according to the politicians, the best way to deal with the mentally ill is to prevent them from having access to the Constitution. God damn, that wastes a lot of American taxpayer dollars. A lot of homeless women have gone to resource to resource to resource. A lot of them end up being really racist because there's these people at these resources who are letting immigrant families who have houses, like, for example, Deacon's Closet passes out clothes to the homeless. There were some Hispanic families who were showing up and trying to take everything that was worth money. And people are like, well, that's not fair. You know, they're not actually homeless. You know what? They're still broke. Well, they got a car and they got an apartment. You know, the government probably gave it to them. I don't care. Well, they're taking resources away from the homeless. You know what? We are in this together. Yes, I understand that you're angry because when you go into a clinic, like the clinic in Boulder, you might be the first one who comes in and writes your name down, but you're homeless. You got a backpack. You got to go sit away from everybody else. And then you see 10 Hispanic families come in, and the doctor sees them. What are you going to think as a homeless person? And then pretty soon, they're starting to hate on Hispanic people because they're getting help, but you're not. With Brett Roloff, I sat at the clinic for 6.5, 7 hours, watching a bunch of people go through. But the thing is that it's the hospital policies, it's the opinions of the people who work there towards the homeless. It's not those Hispanic people's fault that those hospital staff don't think of you as a human being. These homeless women spend more money and more time and more resources going around to these places to try to get these resources to be denied over and over and over again, or have hardly anything there because it's going to someone else and they're angry about it. They're staying with a guy who might beat her once every 3 months because she knows if she's getting beaten once every 3 months by her protector, he has still protected her from 10 or 15 beatings already. He has already protected her from being raped for 3 months. If he's not going to hit her for another 3 months after that because you're having a honeymoon period, that's another 3 months where you're not being victimized 15 times or raped 30 times. A lot of rape. If you want to rape someone, you can literally get away with raping a homeless person, especially in Boulder, Colorado, especially if you are a police officer or a college student. Our predator pool is pretty well the same. We need all the victims to work together. The courts are fucked. All right? There's a lot of crimes committed by the courts that don't result in that jail time for just black people, by the way. We keep getting told it's just black people and it's a bigger number of black people. No, the biggest cross section's got nothing to do with color. Nothing to do with color. Family courts, a lot of murder courts, like the situation with Jonathan Starkus, who murdered his own daughter. But he's friends with the DA, he's friends with officers and a detective. He's also a racist asshole. But he's free. He can do this to anyone he wants, at all. Why? Because he's still free. The man did this to his own daughter. If he's willing to do this to his own daughter, what's he willing to do to you? That's the same question I posed for Ted Bollinger. Ted Eugene Bollinger, why did you rape your daughter? Why did you sell her body to pay off your debts? Meanwhile, Natalie's case was a high-profile case because she was a college student. She had a roof over her head. She was pretty. She was young. She's female. There's a lot of people who don't fit into all those categories of people who get special treatment.